Hi, this is Josh with Retro TV One Tech, and today I've got something really rare and really cool to show you. This is a New Media Basics joystick game port adapter for vintage laptops running MS-DOS or one of the early Windows systems. It's really rare. These are really hard to find on eBay, and it took me probably a year and a half to find this one actually. You can see it's got a 15-pin joystick game port, and it would work really well with this Gravis PC gamepad or even this Microsoft Sidewinder from a few years later. It also works with any PC gamepad or joystick that has this 15-pin port. And you might be wondering, well, why would we need this? What you have to remember is most vintage laptops like the Toshiba Tecra 500 CDT behind me here actually were made mostly for business and used mostly by business customers. And so businesses, they weren't really concerned about having a joystick or a game port. So these laptops, if you look at the back here, they really don't have any game port or anything like that that you would need to play games on the laptop. They're all about business. So there's a VGA port, there's a serial port, and there's a parallel port, and then a dock connector. Now, a lot of the docks actually ended up having game ports, but they have the sound ports and everything else here, but they really didn't ever have a game port on these vintage laptops because they really weren't made for playing games. They were too expensive for casual gamers. Most gamers had desktop computers, and those were easy to get a joystick game port card for it. Those were very cheap, and you could just get a joystick game port card, or most Sound Blaster cards and things already had joystick game ports on them. So if you had a desktop computer, you really didn't have to worry about this at all. And as you can see here on the back of my Tandy 1000, here's an old Sound Blaster 2.0 card, and you can see that it has a 15-pin game port on the back of it, along with, of course, the audio outputs and things like that. So if you had a desktop PC of any kind, even one newer than this, a 486 or even a Pentium, you would very easily have a sound card, and almost all sound cards had these 15-pin game port adapters where you could hook up your joystick, and there was no problem at all. You didn't have to get any adapter or anything like that. It was already there in a card most people already had on their system, like this sound card. Now, I am lucky enough to have the dock for this 500 CDT laptop, and you can see here there is a 15-pin joystick game port, just like the one on this New Media Basics game port. So I actually did find these at about the same time, but the docks are just as rare for these laptops if they don't actually already come with them. And when you're out on the road, a lot of times you don't want, of course, this big dock going with you. That's really more for the desk and more for the home environment. So these are really great for on the go. And, sometimes when you're looking at buying these retro laptops on eBay, you're really not going to find the docks with them. It's very rare, so I was lucky to find this. It's almost as hard, actually, as finding these. So again, these come up very rarely for sale on eBay, and when they do come up, they're usually very expensive. I was lucky that I actually made an offer to the seller and got it for a mostly reasonable price, considering how rare it is. So how does it work? Well, it plugs into a PC MCIA slot on the laptop, and most of these laptops had these PC MCIA slots up until the early 2000s when they converted everything mostly to USB. Of course, this laptop doesn't have USB. If it did, you could just plug a USB joystick into it and play all your games from Windows 98 in a DOS box, and that would work just fine. And of course, you can see that this card sticks out quite a bit, but it offers really convenient access to the joystick port over here. So let's fire up the laptop and see how it works. I'm going to start with the Microsoft Sidewinder because that's how I've got this laptop configured. Getting the drivers installed on these cards is very difficult, and I'll show you that a little bit later in the video for anybody who's interested on how I actually got this working, because it didn't just work right out of the box. Alright, let's get this thing booted up. Power switch on it was giving me a little bit of problem, so I may have to get that worked out, but I finally got it going. And you can see Just Do It there on the screen. If you hadn't seen my video on this one before, I'll link it in the description, but this is the Nike laptop. It actually was used by somebody working for Nike. So they cleaned everything off, of course, but they left the custom wallpaper and all kinds of stuff on here, so that's pretty cool. And you can see my Microsoft Sidewinder is ready to go. The green light is on, so it is actually receiving power through the game port adapter down here. So that's good that it actually receives power from the PC MCIA slot there and forwards that on to the Sidewinder joystick itself. But let's play some games with this. Before we do, check out the Sidewinder software here, and we can hit properties here. And now you can see if I push the buttons, you can see that they light up and that they all actually work. So that's kind of cool. It's kind of hard to see the joystick, I know, and the screen at the same time, but everything works except for the mode button actually is like a pass-through mode for this joystick. It's kind of cool. It's got actually another game port on the back of it. And we're going to start out with one of my favorite games to play with or without a joystick, and that's Commander Keen 4. So here we go, that's loaded up. And it'll be partial screen for now because this is an 800 by 600 laptop. I can make it stretch the screen, but it actually looks a little better like this. So I got my joystick ready to go. And I'm going to go to configure. It should be saved from the past, but I'm going to go to use joystick number 1. And if I move my joystick and press button 1, that works. And down to the right and press button 2 and using joystick 1. The very first time this actually worked, I was just so excited because it had taken so long to get this game port card to work. Alright, so we're going to use this like a Gravis gamepad, and we will set the buttons here. So first of all, we're going to do the button for jump, and then pogo, and then fire, and then status. Do you use a different key combination? Let me know. That's the one I'm most familiar with. Here we go. Let's give this a shot. Hey, it works. That's good. I'm glad it didn't forget. These drivers are really, really janky. I'll show you a little later in the video. Stay tuned. But it's working perfectly. There you go. So much easier to control this way than it would be using the keyboard. And of course, if you had a later laptop, you could just use USB, but that only works in Windows. You can get some DOS drivers, but they're a little bit flaky. But this works in DOS and Windows. And it takes a little doing to get it working in DOS, though, because DOS doesn't see PCMCIA unless it has the special card services driver. So we'll get into that later, but it's a whole thing. DOS was, of course, around way before PCMCIA or USB or any of these things, but it just means that you have to do a little bit of finagling to get it to work. So anyway, it works great. We can just keep going. I don't ever show the second level here. I don't know if this is actually the second level, but it's one of the later levels in the game. I always just show that very first level for some reason. All right, that was weird. It went to screensaver there for a second. Maybe I need to set it to not go to screensaver when I'm not pushing a button. Anyway, this works great, super fun, and the control is just fantastic. It's instantaneous. There's no lag or anything like that. So this game port adapter works fantastically with the Microsoft Sidewinder. Let's try one more game just for fun. All right, up next is going to be Test Drive 3. Such an iconic game. Now for this one, you actually have to do Alt-J or Control-J, I think. Let me see, is it Alt-J? Control-J. Alright, so Control-J, and then I take my joystick and I move it all around. It basically just sets the boundaries of the joystick, what coordinates it goes to, and then you just press the button. And now it works. Now, of course, this game is way too fast for this computer. As you see, as I just crashed like immediately. But you get the point. But it works. Head on with the police officer. That's always a bad idea. Hello. Anyway, there are utilities like MoSlow and CPU speed and things to slow this down, but that's not really the focus of this video. But if you can just stay, off the trees and not head on the police cars, you'll be fine. Or like the other cars. So there you go. But the joystick does work on Test Drive 3. It actually works better if you slow it down. So I'll try this on one of my other laptops here in just a minute. It's a little slower. I'm like really bad today on this. In order to show you how this works on MS-DOS, I'm going to try this on my IBM ThinkPad 701C Butterfly laptop, affectionately known as Carla. This is the one I fixed a couple months ago. And if you're wondering why it's special, this is why. The butterfly keyboard that expands out when you open the laptop. And on this one, the PCMCIA ports are over here. And so let's just hope we can get this in here without interfering with the computer too much. All right, looks like we have to put this in the lower PCMCIA slot. That'll work. There we go. It won't work in the upper one because the keyboard would actually hit it. All right, let's get this fired up. And you can tell this one has the original hard drive in it as well. You can hear it spin up. Such a fun computer. You can see there it says DOS card services. That's what you need to run this in MS-DOS. And of course, it still has the IBM antivirus on it. All right, we are all booted up into Windows 3.1, but this is not where we're going to use the joystick. We'll do that in DOS. Okay, so that took a ridiculously long time, but I finally got the driver loaded here in DOS. There's two different drivers. There's gport.exe and then the main driver, which is nmcgp.exe. And the main driver just really wouldn't load. I tried it in configsys and everything else, but the simpler driver, gport.exe, works as long as you find a free space in the memory. So I'll show you how I did this. So I can do gport/mem equals, and I'm going to do just A000. It tries D000 first, but the A000 seems to work. So here we go. It's requested that memory, and it's got the game port detected in port 201. All right, so now that that's settled, port 201 is the standard joystick port for MS-DOS. So that's where any MS-DOS game would be looking for the joystick unless you specified something else. So now let's try Commander Keen on this computer. Nice that this computer is basically 640 by 480, so it will fill the screen on Commander Keen. And this thing's actually written for a Gravis gamepad, so as I showed earlier. So we're going to go down to Configure, and we'll do Use Joystick number 1. And now I'll push to the upper left and press button 1, and that works just fine. And then press button 2 to the lower right. And we're using joystick 1, but of course now we're going to go turn on Gravis gamepad, and we're going to do red, and then blue, and then yellow, and then green. So there you go. Let's give this a shot. Speaker on this computer doesn't work very well. Headphone jack works fine, but the speakers don't, so you won't hear any sound, but you will see that it works perfectly. So yay, I'm actually using a joystick on a butterfly computer. And this is actually the first time I've ever done this. I actually haven't ever tried it on this computer before, so I was like, let's just try it in this video the first time. But anyway, really, really awesome to be able to do this. This computer, of course, is a 486. It definitely doesn't have USB or anything like that. It's got Windows 3.1, so the only way to use this with a joystick is with this New Media Basics game port. So I feel so lucky to have one of these. And actually, there's not even a game port on the dock for this. I have the dock, which has all the other ports on it and things like that, but honestly, it doesn't have a joystick port. So this is literally the only way to get a joystick port on this computer, unless there's another adapter I don't know about. But let me know in the comments below if there's some other kind of adapter that I don't know about. So anyway, but this works perfectly, and there's no lag or latency, and you can see the graphics are gorgeous on this screen. Sorry, I don't have it zoomed in all the way. I wanted to be able to show my playing on the joystick and or gamepad I should say, and the screen at the same time, just to show you that this is how I'm doing this. So yeah, it's a really, really great way. This is a game that really needs the joystick. It just really does. So of course, if this video gets a lot of views, a lot of people are going to be looking for this game port adapter card. And you know, all I can say is just be patient. They do come up on eBay from time to time, but they are very, very expensive usually when they do come up. So it's just something you have to be willing to part with money to have that joystick adapter. I did promise Test Drive 3 on another computer, so I'm going to try Test Drive 3 on this computer. It should be a little bit more playable on this one. You can see the car is not spinning quite as quickly. I need to figure out how to slow this computer down, though. It actually can slow down to 25 megahertz, and I haven't figured that out yet. But I do still need to hit Control-J to configure the joystick. You can see the little dot is in the bottom left, or the bottom right, I should say, until I spin this around, and then you can see the dot. Well, it should go back to the middle. It didn't really do that. Interesting. Okay, so this may not work on this system. I'm not really sure what's going on here. Yeah, okay, so there's something wrong with the calibration on this one. That's weird. Anyway, let me see if I can recalibrate it. Let's try that one more time. I got a ticket. Well, also, my joystick wasn't working. Oh, there it goes. Okay, that's weird. All right, so I'm going to try it again now. Ah, there we go. That was weird. Just wasn't liking that. But officer, my Gravis gamepad wasn't working, I promise. There we go. So this is still like way too fast, but it is working. I've got that Pocket 386 that I showed in a previous video, and it's just about the right speed to run this. So anyway, luckily I know this track well enough to do this. Oops. Well, to hit trees, but also to go off-road and still kind of find my way through here. So anyway, that's working perfectly, except for the fact that I keep getting tickets and keep hitting things. But that's just, you know, bad driver performance here. Where is the road? Anyway, at least the joystick works. It does work. Hit F6 to return to road. There we go. All right, let's get back on track here. Let's see if I can actually... Nope. I don't think I'm going to be able to finish this race. But anyway, you get the point. It is super, super fun. And if I could slow this down a little bit, I probably would be doing a lot better. Or maybe I just need to, practice. Or get good, as they say. Oh, there, I'm getting it. But now I see there's the police car again. I'm almost there. Let's see if we can finish this out. Oh, one more crash with a station wagon there. Yep, a Woody station wagon, no less. All right, let's try this. Excuse me. I did it. There we go. Awesome. All right, so I promised you I'd show you how tricky it was to install this new Media Basics game port adapter here. By the way, if you want a closer look at it again, it's pretty simple. It really is very basic. You can see the FCC ID, model number, and everything else, but it says 1996, Irvine, California. So anyway, it's pretty simple. And then you can see the PC-MCIA interface there. Sorry, I won't focus on it, but I will show you how tricky this is to get working on Windows 95. Getting the drivers working is not easy. So this is actually a different Toshiba Tecra 500 CDT. It's the exact same computer, but I bought it because it had the dock with it, and so you can see actually that there's some issues with the screen here and things like that. Now these bands, that's a moire effect because of the camera, so you see if I move the camera around, that kind of just changes. So that's just how the camera focuses on the screen, but you can definitely tell this is a different computer because of the issues with the display mask on the monitor or on the screen itself. Anyway, here are the driver files for this particular game port adapter, and you would think that you could just hit setup and it would work, but it doesn't. All it does is like copy the help files and stuff. Not very helpful at all. So here is the new media game port INF file, and if you know anything about Windows 95 and 98, they like these INF files because it basically tells the computer where to copy all the software into the driver folders and stuff like that. And the main drivers we're going to be using is this msjoystick.drv and then this vjoyd.vxt. So those are the two main drivers it needs to install, but it also needs to detect the game port. So I'm going to go ahead and insert the game port adapter into the PC MCIA slot right down here. I'm just going to stick that in there. Now it should come up. So as you can see, immediately it says it's detected the basics by New Media Game Port there, or Game RT, whatever that is. So you'd think, oh, good. It's all good. I just need to show it the directory where the files are, and it'll just work fine, right? I wish it was that easy. Now, obviously, I don't have a floppy drive installed in this computer right now, so I'm just going to have to browse for other locations. So let me browse to the c/gameport directory, which is actually where I put the INF file. So you think, oh, it's got the INF file in there. Normally, if you just point Windows to where the INF file is, it'll work just fine. So I'm going to hit OK. It does not contain a driver for your device. Wait, what? So it literally will not do it. And you can do other locations or whatever else, but the bottom line is it won't do it that way. So, you put it in there and you say, oh, this is plug and play. Everything's great. You plug it in, you've got the driver, you go from there. Usually you put the disk for your driver in drive A or whatever, your driver, sorry, for your device in drive A, and it finds it and it installs it. That's the way it used to work back in the Windows 95, 98 days. But in this case, it doesn't work that way. So what I actually have to do is go all the way up here to Control Panel. I'm showing this because if somebody does find one of these, I will save you all the time, hours and hours and hours it took to figure this out. So I'm going to go into the device manager, hit other devices, and I'm going to show you Basics Game Port here. So I'm going to hit properties, or I could have just double clicked on it, and you can see there's no driver for this. So I'm going to update the driver. This is like a way roundabout way of doing this, but I'm gonna say no. Windows, I don't want Windows to select the driver. Now, I don't know, maybe I have the wrong drivers for this. I don't know. I'll post them in the description if you need to find them. I looked in Internet Archive. I did all the things to find the right drivers. There's only two different versions I found, 1.00 and 1.04. I'm using 1.04 because it's newer, but in this case, Windows will not select it. It's almost like whatever file or whatever device ID in the driver files is not the same as what the device itself is giving. But anyway, I'm going to select from a list. If I go to, I don't think it really matters what I pick, but let me just see if I can find it. Oh, sound, video, and game controllers. There we go. Okay, that's what it is. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, oh, see, I can't select it from this list. New Media Corporation. Oh, it has the Wave Jammer in there. Okay. I think I remember Windows 95 has a weird thing. It doesn't allow you to select that you have a disk here. So I think I have to go and copy the INF file into the drivers directory. So let me see if I can find that real quick. All right, so here I am back in the game port directory where I put my driver files. I'm going to copy this nmcgp.inf file. I'm going to copy that over to the Windows drivers folder. I don't think just installing it will work. Let me try that actually real quick just for fun. That'd be funny if that actually worked. Yeah, I don't think that actually works. So anyway, let's go over to Windows and I will locate the place where that needs to go. All right, I found it. It needs to go to INF. Now this is all the INF files for everything that Windows 95 knows how to install. So if I put this nmcgp in here, it should go ahead and find this and recognize it. I'm hoping. I think this is how I did it last time. So very, very, very tricky to get this working. So I've got it in there. And now I should be able to go back to the control panel and do that same procedure and it should find it. I think Windows 98 gives you the option to quote unquote have disk. And if you know another way to get to this where I can just manually select the driver, let me know. But basically I have to select a driver and it'll have to say, are you sure? Are you sure that you want to use this driver that's not the one that's recommended? And yes, I am sure. So I have to get it to let me do that. But let me see. Okay, so now see, it's building a driver information database. I'm thinking that's because it detected there was a new file there. Let's see if that actually works. Okay, so let's go down to new media and hopefully this, fingers crossed, hopefully this works. No, it didn't. Maybe it's up here somewhere. Let me see. Oh, here it is. Basics by New Media. That's it. Good. I got it. Yay. My goodness, like copying files around. This is what's like, it's fun and frustrating at the same time. All right, so it's going to tell me this is not going to work. Well, first of all, I need to put in the disk. Now I'll show them where the files are. All I have to do is go to C/gameport. That's the files that it's trying to look for. It'll also say that these aren't the right drivers, but I'll just do the Jedi mind trick. These are the drivers you're looking for. Windows. Okay, there we go. That's the file vjoyd.vxd. It's going to find that. I'm going to hit OK. It copies it. Is that it? Did it work? Doesn't look like it did. No, it did. Okay, it did work. That is so weird. All right, so it's working now, I think. So if I go to PC card, it's working. That's weird, though. It just accepted it, and it said everything was good. So I don't know. But, when you try and do it the normal way of just pointing to the INF file, it doesn't work. The setup doesn't work. Whatever. So just copy the INF file to the INF folder in Windows and go down and select Basics Game Port under Sound, Video Game, and Controller Devices, and you'll have it. Super complicated, but it seems to work. So let's get in a game and really test it here. All right, so for this test, I'm actually going to use the Gravis because with the Sidewinder, you do have to install the Sidewinder drivers, and the Gravis just kind of works. So I don't want to do the Sidewinder drivers right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and install the Gravis in there and it will just auto detect that. One thing you do need to do though is go into Joystick in the control panel. Oh, here we go. Okay, so we're going to find Gravis on here because it's actually one of the default options, I believe. Let me see. Yes, not analog, Gravis gamepad. There it is. Okay, so that's one of the default options for Windows 95. It's already got the drivers in, so it should just find it. All right, cool. Let's see if that works. Fingers crossed. All right, here we go. So you can see I've got the joystick up and yes, it works. Yay. All right. I do need to calibrate because you can see it's off center, but you can also see the buttons all work. Wow. So you can see it's not easy, but we'll get there. All right. Now you can see the difference here. I've got this laptop set up to do the screen stretch. So you'll see the difference between this laptop with the screen stretch and the other one without. All right. So I will go ahead and configure, use joystick 1. So we're going to go up or left, press button 1, lower right, press button 2. That looks like it's good to go. And we're going to do Gravis gamepad. We're going to do red and blue and yellow and green. Perfect. You can see the text is a little messed up on this, but it's nice to have full screen. So which one do you like better? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, there we go. I think the sound is just all the way down. There we go. So the sound does work on this one. So there you go. Works perfectly. In Windows drivers installed. I tricked it into installing the drivers even though it didn't want to. So, but every computer is different. That other Toshiba Tecra 500 CDT, it really gave me a lot more problems when it was installing. So even after I got all those files copied, it was like, are you sure this isn't the right thing? This isn't the right files? And I was like, yes, I'm sure. And I had to do the Jedi mind trick, like I said. But anyway, that's cool. All right, let's try one more game. But first, I feel like I have to beat the level, right? Ah, feel better. All right, now let's try another game. Tyrion. And Tyrion, for whatever reason, I didn't even configure a joystick. It literally just works. That's kind of crazy. It just auto-detects the Gravis gamepad there. So there we go. I know it's focused on my gamepad and not on the screen, but you get the point. So let me turn up the sound a little bit. I must have the sound down in Windows or something. Either way, I'm not going to mess with that right now. But this does have a great soundtrack. And it just works flawlessly right out of the gate. No problem at all. And this is a fantastic game. This is a Pentium 120 megahertz computer, so this is about the right speed processor for this game. If you go too fast, this game won't even load, like, at all. You can see it works great. I thought I'd done test driving Commander Keen quite a bit, so why not try something different? I am not doing very well right now, but you get the point. I also didn't upgrade my ship and all that because I was just trying to get into it in a hurry, but you can see it works perfectly. I love the Gravis gamepad. It just works in these DOS games. They just kind of expect it. Even the older games work with this Gravis. They don't always allow you to use all 4 buttons, but it just works. So there you go. New Media Basics game port adapter. Working like a dream. And also data acquired. Because why not? Alright, well there you have it. The New Media Basics game port adapter. Really super excited to be able to show this to you. And I can't believe I found it on eBay. Just super, super rare. I had a search set up for it, so I would encourage you to do the same thing if you get a chance. Just get one of these and give it a try. Again, they are pricey. I saw one listed for $950. I definitely didn't pay anything close to that. They're usually at least $100. I've seen them go for as low as $100, and I've seen them go even for as much as $500. But they're really, really, really fun to have and fun to play with. And any computer that runs Windows 95, Windows 98, or MS-DOS and has a PCMCIA slot will work with this game port adapter. So it's very universal with these older computers. Now, if your computer has a USB, then you can just get a USB Microsoft Sidewinder, or any USB joystick from that era will work, and those are in plentiful supply on eBay. They're really, really easy to find a USB joystick that'll work with Windows 95 or 98. And you can even get DOS USB drivers. But this is just super fun, and what a cool little device for anybody who was a business person but wanted to play games in their spare time. You could grab one of these, and when you get back in the hotel after your business meeting, you can put this in and play some Tyrion, play some Commander Keen. So super excited to get this working. Leave me a comment if you have any trouble. If you get one of these and you have trouble getting yours working, you can see it is a little bit janky and you have to hack around a little bit to get things to work. But it worked in the end. And I will link the drivers in the description and all the files that you might need if you do get one of these. Otherwise, I hope you just enjoyed seeing something really, really rare. It'd be really cool if somebody would come up with like a modern implementation of this that would go into a PCMCIA slot where, somebody could buy that. You could remanufacture those and make those for people to buy if they really wanted these for retro laptops. So anyway, that's all I've got for now. Thank you so much for watching. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time. So for now, enjoy that tech and keep it retro.